Yo, what's up guys? I wanted to make a quick top 5 gods and builds video since 11.4 just hit. It's been a pretty big patch for solo lane. I haven't had the most successful results when it comes to my win-loss, but I'm pretty sure I know what the meta is going to be, and yeah, let's go straight into the list, quit yapping. Number 1, Wukong. This god has been at the top of solo lane pretty much all year, most of last year as well. As you can see, he has a lot of flexibility in his builds. I always prefer going with Bluestone as the starters, but if you're more comfortable with Axe, that is also an option too. Right now, I'd say your best options are Soul Eater or Frostbound. Frostbound, if you're against an auto attacker, is really good in combination with this too. But I just think Soul Eater is usually the best, gives you a lot of damage, gives you cooldown, and a lot of sustain that pairs well with his passive. After this, you're usually against a warrior, and I'm a big fan of just rushing into the 20 cooldown. The Glad Shield damage really isn't too relevant as you go throughout the game, I think, the more I've been testing it. Okay, what is my chat doing? Yeah, what's up, Nicholas? Hey, Izzy. I'm filming a YouTube video quick, so I'm going to be yapping a lot. Next up, I think right now I prefer just going to Binding instead of just Magic D. It gives you a nice damage spike with the pro reduction, especially because Wukong can proc it on 2 different abilities. They're on a pretty low cooldown. After this, you can decide, do you want Magic D for the major plane against? Usually, I would prefer Genji's just to be full cooldown. Or do you want to go straight into something like Archdruids, which gives you more damage, as well as some split defense. I think right now in this patch, I'd be a pretty big fan of Archdruids. And then I would, if I do build like this, I would finish with Mantle. This build gives you 40 cooldown, good balance of defense, good amount of damage, especially with his passive, and just makes him really hard to lock down. For relics, I am always going Blink on Wukong, and upgrading it to 5 Blink, of course, with TP. TP is just going to be in every single one of these builds, pretty much. Just offers way too much safety in lane. And Blink, just because Wukong doesn't really need beads or thorns to do more damage or be safer, he just needs to be able to get to people. You can also go down like a full damage path, but I wouldn't recommend it, especially if you're a newer player. I would just stick with something like this, gives you a good balance of everything. And the reason Wukong is the #1 solo laner, I think, is because he has no bad matchups. He can go even everywhere, or majority of the time win them. And if we see a lot of auto attackers come into the meta, Wukong is going to have a really easy time against them. He spaces really well between auto attackers, and he also has just a lot of consistent damage for them as well. Number 2, it's Balano. Well, whenever we see a new auto attack item, she's always going to be at the top of the ones who can abuse it. She's been pretty good all year, if not the best auto attacker. Yo, hi, thanks for the 31 months, appreciate it. Thank you. I think, personally, Death's Embrace is pretty bad. But I'm going to leave it there as an option in case you guys enjoy playing with it. I would always go with Axe into Animosity. Right now, might need a bit more testing, but I think I'm just a fan of Equinox. It seems really busted in the laning phase, especially for Balano, because she makes up for the no prots on the item through her passive. So I'd go Equinox right now, into Berserkers, into Shoguns. I think this is the core 3 in every single game. Nothing should really make you change from it. It's pretty similar to the old build where usually you just have XC or Kins in place of Equinox. Now you make the choice of, do you want Kins for the extra yellow number damage, or do you want Executioner with anti-heal and anti-shield with Envenomed? I guess I just put that on there right now. I think most of the time, you're going to just go Kins, but Envenomed is there as an option if you just want to have a bit more utility throughout the game. And when it comes to your last slot, I think most games it's going to be between Mantle and Binding. Mantle just, you know, locks down like the safety, gives you more immunity with the passive. Binding, if you just feel really safe in the game, you don't need more CC immunity, and you just want to do a bit more damage with your yellow numbers. But yeah, I wouldn't really deviate too much from the build. Relics-wise, TP. And then most of the time I'd go Beads on Balona. Just because it's really important to be able to free cast as a melee auto attacker. You want to be able to stick to people and not be stunned or knocked up or slowed or anything like that. You just want to be on top of them. Or if you are not worried about that, you can go Thorns. But I would just recommend Beads. When do we start winning with it? Today. I'm going to be winning today. Next up, who did I have as my number 3? Odin. Odin has been my top solo laner for the past couple weeks. Mainly because of Bubble, but now it's received a pretty big nerf. Odin's 3 received a small nerf as well, but I think damage-wise he's still doing really well. Most games I've been going Axe on him into Jotuns. I just prefer the aggressive start on him. It really feels like you can abuse your lane opponent really hard like this. Into Glads, into Genjis. And then I was going Bubble, but I kind of want to drop this now. And if I was to drop it, it would be in favor of something like Archdruids. Just because it gives you a bit more defense, gives you a lot of damage. He doesn't really auto-attack often, so you're just going to be getting a big stack of Archdruids whenever you do hit someone with it. And then, usually I've been finishing the build with Void Shield. Just gives me a bit more prot shred and damage, and a big chunk of physical defense. Another option you do have is something like Frostbound. I'm just going to be mentioning Frostbound a lot for these anti-auto attackers. He's just going to use it really well. He's going to be super annoying for like a Balona or something to trade into. Just because you're going to constantly slow them, stun them, slow them over and over again. And if I was going to put Frostbound into the build, I would probably switch it up to something more like this. And then Archdruids or Void to finish the build. You could even put in Binding because Frostbound slows will proc Binding. Odin's not the best Binding god by himself, but just having that permanent slow off of Frostbound now actually does give you a lot of utility from this. So yeah, those are the 2 builds I'd most likely consider on Odin right now. Maybe this one, after looking at it again, could be pretty big. But yeah, just a really good god into pretty much all the laners he's against. Make sure you max your 3 so you can actually win the trades. And I would say don't build Bubble anymore. I think that it's too expensive. You can't really rush the cooldown with Bubble as quickly as you could before. So yeah, make sure to look elsewhere with a build like this. What did I have next? I had King Arthur. King Arthur, I don't think a lot of people have valued him too much recently, but I've had him pretty high for the whole year, like from my point of view. I think he's been getting a lot of item changes, which are nice for him, and now the auto attack is gonna be in his lane a lot. Arthur's one of the best gods into them. He kites really well, he can distance himself really well from auto attackers, and he has just a lot of consistent damage that they can't sustain through. He's just always going to do really well in lane against those characters, and even against the likes of Wukong and Odin, he's not going to have too many issues as long as you build appropriately for it. I think the best build for him in most games is still just going to be getting Glad Shield. I messed around with Breastplate a lot, but I feel like I was lacking a little bit of damage in lane. And then I'm usually going straight into Void, and then it's between Heart Ward and Genjis. If you feel like you need a bunch of cooldown in that game, I'd go with the Genjis, but most games, I'm going Heart Ward. When the proc conversion comes in, you don't see it on these stats, but you get like 27 extra prots at this stage, magic prots. It just rounds out your stats really well. And then next up, you can finish with a super double aggressive Binding Archdruids, or what I would probably do is just Mantle Lust. You're only going to be 20% cooldown, but with the Tiki and the buff, you should have more than enough. And with this build, you're just going to be super tanky, do a lot of damage with your Bluestone, Bruche, Glads, and Void combo. Even Binding, you're just shredding so many prots that you're going to be doing a shit ton of damage. And I'm a big fan of going beads on Arthur. I think his biggest issue is when you're L build. Sorry, man. Sorry I let you down. I think it feels so good to go blink on Arthur and get away with it, but most of the time, his biggest issue is in a team fight is that he gets locked down way too easily late game. So I would recommend, if you've been struggling with Arthur, go bead second relic every game. You're gonna feel a lot more comfortable just engaging and using like your spin in a team fight, or just, you know, just chaining your combos together with a knock-up into his ones. I just think there's a lot more you can get away with beads. And also, if you do feel like you're low on cooldown and you want a bit more, just drop one of Void or Glad. I think you could just do this instead, you know? And then you would be 30% cooldown instead. So yeah, I'd say those are the best options for Arthur. And then we're on 5th now, right? So this might be controversial. A lot of people are going to have stuff like Surtur, I think, because he just got his stacking change. I actually think Amma is the god I would round out the list with. She has a slightly harder laning phase at the start of the game than the other gods I listed, but with the meta right now, there's so much neutral farm in the lane to secure, whether that be the Bull Demon, the XP camp, or the cooldown camp. There is not a single character in the game with better secure than Amma for that in this whole lane. So as long as you can be disciplined for the start of the game, you are going to have a very easy time as this character. She scales out of lane insanely well. She is only weak really until you get your first item, and then most lanes you're going to be going even or just completely out-farming them and getting ahead. Again, Death's Embrace, not a big fan of it. I would just go Animosity. I played one game with Equinox on her and it felt really good, so I will stick with that. I don't know why I didn't put Berserkers in here, actually. Now, this is a decision based on how you want to play the game. If you want to just be a full-on auto-attack based character and just run people down, I would go Berserkers Shoguns. If you care more about like your utility with your cooldowns, maybe just spamming your ultimate to engage, you can do Breastplate into Shoguns. Both are going to be fine, it's just playstyle based. Right now I've just been preferring skipping the cooldown. And then similarly to Balano, you just pick between Kins and Xe based on what you want. Do you want the extra damage from Kins, maybe if you're hitting tanks a lot, or do you want the anti-heal, anti-shield value from Envenomed? Again, just most games, Kins is going to be more fun. And then you just round the build out with whatever's really relevant for you in that final slot. Spear Robe's really good with that too. Mantle's really good always, just shit ton of prots and an OP passive. Void is good if they're stacking Fizz and you want a bit more defense for them and damage increase as well. Onis is good against a bunch of magicals, but most of the time your build is just going to look like this. The main reason a lot of these characters are on the list and not some of the other ones is because, one, they're very strong at fighting around the Bull Demon. 2, they're very strong at securing the camps on the neutral sides, so like the Naga camp or the cooldown camp. And they just all scale really well throughout the game. There's definitely other gods. If I was to do honorable mentions, I would do stuff like Chuck, Nike, Vamana, Cthulhu. But I just think the gods I listed are just, 1, a lot more fun to play, and 2, just a lot more consistent to play. So yeah, it's more of a prediction, just based on the first few days of playing. I'll probably do an updated list at some point. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. So yeah, my top 5 would be Wukong, Balano, Arthur, Odin, and Amma. Thanks for watching. Make sure to leave a comment if you disagree or have any other thoughts. Yeah, thanks for watching, I appreciate it.